There's been a lot of questions about when you're going to sit down for your first interview since being the nominee. Do you have any update on that?
I've talked to my team. I want us to get an interview scheduled before the end of the month.
Okay, so there she is. She is speaking with reporters. It's in an informal setting. She can potentially leave whenever she wants. It's not an extended thing, but she is talking to them. That said, she says she's talking to the team about doing some sort of interview by the end of the month. It is the 8th as of when she said that. So that is still a very long period of time. I mean, that's about a third of what remains in the presidential race. So I don't know if that's necessarily gonna placate people who believe that it's a super important thing that she really prioritized. But I wanna turn now to the co-host of Shark Tank, Kevin O'Leary, recently talked about one of the reasons that she might be a little bit hesitant to do an interview.
Kamala Harris's campaign website has no economic plans. We were just going through it again to the commercial break. It's a bio about her, and it's a bio about her. There is no tab for issues.
It's intentional. She has no intention of putting any policy out there until this convention's over. I'm a very fortunate guy because I'm an investor, and for decades I've been syndicating debt, primarily for real estate. Some of her closest advisors are people I work with in finance. And we're friends, so I called them up and say, hey, listen, you want to talk about policy here? And they said, listen, everything's working right now. We're going to strong arm the press on policy. We don't need to do anything.
Wait. What's everything's working?
The momentum's crazy. The press she's getting right now, she is sucking.
Her campaign.
The campaign.
Okay.
The campaign is working.
Okay.
And there's no reason to sit down with any journalist and talk policy right now because we're in the euphoric stage. They think they can raise up to $300 million before this whole thing that's going to happen over the weekend is over. So that's extraordinary amount of money. Then it's time to talk policy. Then it's time to go to the center. Then it's time to talk about border.
All right.
Yeah, so that's Kevin O'Leary, and you can tell that like the tenor of that entire panel was obviously negative. I mean, even down to like the master graphic on the wall and everything. But yeah, that was basically what I was thinking. Like, I think in the same way that I think an actual primary it should be a prerequisite for a democracy. I think that presidential debates should be a prerequisite. I think that these interviews are also important, but that's from like my point of view and what I think we should all demand. From their point of view, why now would you do one? I mean, again, so like they're telling their aides are talking to Politico or whatever, they're saying that they're skeptical that it would really offer much upside in reaching out to swing voters, which I don't know if I necessarily agree. I think that there's potentially some upside, but I think that it's much more likely in an hour-long interview to generate at least 1 or 2 responses that now that'll be the thing that the media will talk about.
Hey, don't scroll away. Come back. Because before the video continues, we just want to urge you to lend your support to TYT. You power our honest reporting. You do it at tyt.com/team, and we love you for it.
And I also think in the same way that they're cruising right now, they're raising tons of money, tons of volunteers, they're packing arenas and all that. Everything's going so well. So from their point of view, why not just keep that going as long as you can? But then there's also a thing that I think we're all well aware of, not just in American politics, but in America generally, where the media gets bored and wants things to change. And so there's maybe a lot of media that's reporting on all the enthusiasm and how Walz is being embraced and how everything's great and there's great vibes and all that. But like, wouldn't it be more dramatic if all of a sudden there was a scandal? All of a sudden there was a response that didn't go well. And so maybe they'd be right. Maybe one of the responses would be bad or unpopular. But I also think that there's probably an impression that the media might jump onto the first sign that the honeymoon is over. And so why would they offer that up, I guess, pragmatically?
Yeah, because the correct political strategy is go on the offense and stay there. So that was what Donald Trump did in 2016, and it worked great.
Well, but super fast, I don't like to interrupt you, but wouldn't they make the case that they're doing that with the rallies and with the speeches and in a way that they have total control over?
Yeah, this is all a matter of timing, because is she gonna go the whole campaign without ever doing an interview? Of course not, right? Is she gonna go the whole campaign without stating a single policy issue? I would hope not, otherwise why are we excited about her if we don't even know her policy positions? Remember, she does change them fairly frequently. So, no, that would be absurd. You have to do interviews. You have to answer what the hell are you gonna do when you get in office. And by the way, you should tell people what you're gonna do. And if that causes some degree of trouble because you misstated it or it's not a popular policy position, whatever it might be, That's called politics. Are you running or are you not running? You can't not run and then say you should vote for me. That's not a thing, right? So Elvis Bells is one of our members. Hit the join button below to be part of the show like they are. Wrote in saying Kamala should do some interviews in town halls, but the uproar from Trump's team is a bit rich considering that he didn't attend a single primary debate. So that's also true. And so all these politicians do these things. They don't want to tell you their policies because they think it's going to alienate a certain percentage of the voters. And that's why Trump won't answer the abortion question. And they all, whenever they're leading, they always duck and hide and they never want. But it's such a loser strategy. It's a prevent defense strategy. I hate it. It's definitely wrong politics. And if you think you can't answer a bunch of questions, then you really shouldn't be running. I mean, that was the problem with Joe Biden in the first place. So now having said all that, I guarantee you they're figuring out what her positions are going to be. She's studying them. There's hundreds of them. And they will definitely, you can't go the whole thing without doing interviews and policy positions. So she's gonna get to it. It's a matter of timing. And by the way, you could give her credit for being smart and not just blunder out there. Make sure you got your ducks in a row. Make sure you've done your homework and then go out there. Last thing I'll say is, guys, I don't want unrealistic expectations on either side, okay? So if you're new to politics and you think that she's gonna get big money out of politics and she's a populist and she's gonna get you Medicare for all and get us out of Gaza and stop funding Israel, she's not gonna do the great majority of those things. 98% of Democrats are corporate Democrats. She's in that class. She's not going to defy the donors in a massive way. What we're rooting for is for a guy like Tim Walz, who's very strategic and got things like this done, to help her get to a point where they could do some of these proposals. Like for example, Tim Walz has proposed that the very first thing they should do is paid family leave. Okay, I mean, how much do I love this brother? Okay, balls to the walls, all right? so look, and if they did paid family leave, which is the layup of all layups, that's why you see me obsessing about it. And I can't believe he picked paid family leave. I love this guy, right? I think there's some chance he watches TYT. Okay, so anyways, that's a win. And then we go to the next win and we try to push for the next win. So that's how it works. So I don't want you to just abandon her when you find out that she's not the perfect populist progressive. I also don't want you saying how dare you say that she's not one of those things? She's an angel. All right, then you're gonna get your heart broken. Okay, so just let's be realistic and push for the right direction. All right, Ramesh.
Yeah, I just do want to say though that she has in her speeches when she's talked about two sort of futures, the Trump future and her future, the future, she has at least signaled not only what the main challenges are that American people face, but also some of her positions, and I would say not totally specific, on a number of issues like housing costs. She has mentioned issues around student debt. She's mentioned issues about Americans being able to build intergenerational wealth. She has mentioned restoring or trying to tax big corporations. So I mean, I'm no sort of blind defender of Vice President Harris, but I am actually impressed with not necessarily the specificity, but the signaling of issues and some specificity on some of those issues. And mind you, Trump this week isn't doing hardly any rallies at all. He's only going to Montana, which seems like a pretty safe Republican state. When he does do interviews, it's almost exclusively only on Fox, as you know. And Biden wasn't doing any interviews either. And what I'm so far pretty happy with is there is more of a discussion, unlike Biden, of, oh, we did all these good things. Everything's great. We did all these good things during my administration. When people clearly do not agree with him, she is speaking to future issues, at least different visions of the future. And so that's why you guys know me. My podcast is called Utopias. I'm psyched about this. I'm relieved and psyched. Though I know it's up to us to keep the pressure on them, to really keep the pressure on them, to make sure they really walk the walk. Just because Tim Walz has done great things doesn't mean he would necessarily push for those things in the White House. We have to continue to push for widespread popular issues by Americans across party. It's not a left-right issue. What do 70 90+% of Americans agree on, that's the agenda right there. And those are great humane issues. And most countries around the world already have these things. So let's just do it and ignore their nonsense about socialism, communism. That's just typical BS.
If you enjoyed this video, that's because of our members. They make us independent, they make us strong, and they make us honest. Become a member today by hitting the join button below.